Voice.
Nice. Welcome, 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 everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Happy Wednesday. We're excited to have you all rushing through the webinar doors
Hmm.
for our release webinar today. I hope you're all feeling good, that you have probably a cup of tea in hand, after all, that feels culturally appropriate, and that you're ready to be dazzled by our latest release that we're going to talk about today on leveling. So, as usual, as is customary, we will leave a couple of minutes for everybody to join. And while we do that, we'll just do some introductions. My name is Alexa. I'm the CEO and co-founder of HR DataHub. For those that know me, it's nice to see you again. For those that don't, it's lovely to meet you. And I'm joined by my colleague Alex.
Hello, everybody. Alex Hardy, Senior Customer Experience Manager. Hopefully, I've met all of you by now, so you know what I'm all about. But for today's demo, I'm going to be taking on a slightly different role. I'm going to be working for a completely made-up company, so I can show you leveling to the fullest.
Nice. So needless to say, you have the two most enthusiastic people on at HR Data Hub on this webinar, but also the two people that have the closest names just to make it fun. So we're really happy you're here. And I guess we're gonna get started, and whoever joins along the way joins along the way. So welcome to our May 2026 release webinar. As always, HR Data Hub is here to help you confidently and consistently make compensation recommendations to your business. And most importantly, at scale. We all know that salary benchmarking is not just a task that you're trying to get through as fast as possible, even though it does feel like that sometimes. At the end of the day, those are decisions that need to be backed by evidence because they're impacting the livelihood of people, they're impacting the pay bill of the business. You have to have multiple people involved to decide whether that's the right call. And getting access to data that you can be confident about and doing that consistently across many, many decisions along the way is really important. Don't hesitate, by the way, to before we get going, I forgot to say that, to use the Q&A section to drop any questions, any clarifications you need. We will definitely address that along the way as we go. So 2025 was a huge year, and if you've been with us for a while, you will hopefully be extremely familiar with all the different things that we released. And it's always worth kind of like remembering, because sometimes we just go through the motions of using tools we know how to use, and you forget that there are different things that could be actually incredibly helpful that exist. And it happens to us all the time, and to Alex on calls all the time. It's like, oh, it would be great if you could filter by industry. Oh, you can do that. It would be great if you could save that so that if you have to do it next time, you can just refresh the data you have. You can do that. So last year we released a bunch of filtering capabilities to help you be more accurate and confident while you're filtering. So organization, industry, including and excluding words from a job title, a location. We also improved your ability to be efficient by introducing saved searches, grouping those saved searches into collections so that you can understand them meaningfully, and you can compare your pay on individual benchmarks as you go so that it does all the quick maths for you. And we also introduced elements of understanding the prevalence of certain core total reward components, so performance bonuses, shift allowances, and remote work on roles based on what's mentioned in the job description. So if any of these things is news for you, email Alex immediately, and he will jump on a call with you as soon as possible to make sure that you can make the most of it. These are all features that everybody has access to via paid subscription of HR Data Hub. But obviously, the star of the show today is our latest release that came out this morning, leveling. Now, leveling is probably a feature that has been the most requested over the past couple of years, I would say, at HR Data Hub, and it's taken us a long time to get it to where it's at today. And we feel incredibly proud of it. So I'm very excited to announce its release. You all have access to it as of right this moment. So if you want to benchmark as you listen to this webinar, feel free uh, for those multitaskers out there. But just so that we're all on the same page, essentially benchmarking, or what we mean by leveling is understanding the seniority level of every role in the data set in HR DataHub so that you can feel more confident that you're comparing like for like. That's what we mean. So really briefly, this is how it works. Every role that is ingested in HR DataHub gets assessed via our own human-trained AI model, and that's how we figure out industry. That's how we figure out total reward. So this has been a process that already exists, and essentially what we've added to it is an assessment of the job descriptions according to four different dimensions to help us determine the level of that job. The four pillars that we look for are autonomy, scope of impact, problem complexity, and accountability. So, what do we mean by that? And there's extensive documentation on the platform that goes into a lot of details, but just for the benefit of us on the call right now, what we mean by autonomy is we're asking, how autonomous is this person in this role? How much supervision do they have or are they doing of other people? Scope of impact is this person or is this role responsible for an individual task, a process, a project, a department, the organization as a whole? How much is this role impacting? Problem complexity is about whether it's a known challenge that needs solving with known solutions, so a type of transactional kind of like component to the role, or is this more strategic, complex issues that don't have defined solutions that require strategy, vision, a lot more planning? Where is this role landing on that scale? And finally, accountability. Is that role essentially in charge of, is the person in that role would be in charge of supervising others? Is that role accountable for a budget? So how much is essentially this job kind of covering in terms of accountability? So again, loose description for the sake of this webinar, a lot more detailed explanations in writing on the platform. When Alex goes into a demo in a few minutes, he will show you exactly where to find all of that. Another really important component of this process for us is the recognition of two parallel tracks when we're assessing seniority level of a role. And it's really important because essentially a role can be really senior, but not necessarily associated with the management of other people. So we recognize in our process and in the way that we assess the roles and the seniority of roles that there could be individual contributors from a junior to very senior level, and also people leaders from a mid-level to really senior level. And both of those are assessed in their own way and joined into our leveling process. And finally, it's really important to stress what the assessment framework intentionally ignores. That's salary, title inflation, so job title in general, and years of experience. Now, that might be controversial or it might be welcome, depending on your stance on this. But the reason we really reflected on this, obviously, done a lot of research, and what we realized is actually, salary is not necessarily an indication of seniority. Job title, I'm sure are all familiar with this. You could have really typical is having the word manager as well in a job title, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's a manager of anything. It could just be, like one of 20 managers at the same level. So it's really important to take that out of the scope of analysis, and years of experience for many different reasons, but also because that's less likely to be mentioned as well in a job description. So it's an unreliable component of the assessment process. And it's not necessarily relevant as well for all roles. So intentionally, those things are not taken into account at all when assessing the leveling through HR DataHub. once the assessment is complete, each role in our database is essentially put into one of six broad levels. So it goes from level one, which is entry level role, all the way up to level six, which is director or executive level. And when I was talking a minute ago about parallel tracks between individual contributors and people managers, you can see that reflected in the language that we use to kind of refer to the levels as well as the descriptors. So again, all this information is available on the platform, but it's really important for you to know that there are very clear definitions of those levels, and essentially it's six broad levels. This is what it looks like in the platform. It's for every time you run a search, you will see how many jobs are fielded into each level as we go. So how are you going to be able to use this information? How is that going to be presented? Conceptually, I'm going to flesh it out here, and then Alex can show you what it actually looks like when we're on the platform. So the first and most important thing is you're going to be able to use that as a filter. So you're going to, on every search that you run, on the left-hand side where all the other filters exist, you're going to be able to use that, as I've shown you in the screenshot a second ago, to understand how many roles are in each level and select the one that you're interested in to understand the position that you want to benchmark against. Secondly, we also are going to provide you with essentially a map of a read across against existing frameworks so that if you do use Willis Towers Global Grades or Mercer or Haypoints or any of those four kind of like wildly used frameworks, you'll be able to map them to one of the HR DataHub broad levels. So that will enable you essentially to reconcile information or sense of seniority that you have within a leveling system that you use with the information that you're getting from HR DataHub as well. Um, as we talked about, the two parallel tracks are there and they're reflected in the language that we're using and the information that you'll get on how exactly we're assessing each level and how that feeds into the broad levels. So definitely check that information out to understand as you're benchmarking a role, how that is reflected essentially in the broad level that it's fed into. And finally, and rather importantly, I would say, every level comes with a confidence scoring. And essentially, it's low, medium, high. And essentially, what we're trying to do here is to give you a sense of, out of the four pillars that we decided were really important to assess the seniority of a job, how many of them were present and how significant they were in the job description. So that if it's high, we say, okay, well, there were really lots of mentions of important context across the four different pillars. So we feel really confident that that is definitely a level one, two, three, four, five, whatever. But if we had a sense of some pillars that were really clearly marked, but some others we had to infer, the confidence will go lower and even lower if we're like, there's actually not enough information for us to be really confident about this, but we think it's that. So all of this is to give you a sense of how much can you trust this information? How much should you interrogate it? How much judgment do you have to apply on top of that? You can always apply your own judgment on top of it all, and we look forward to your feedback on this, but it's a starting point to give you a sense of, we are doing this at scale. How confident are we that all of these kind of like really important pillars of a seniority assessment are present in the job description? So it's a lot of information, and I can see already a lot of the different questions flying in, but we'll kind of like give you a view of how that works and what that looks like on the platform. And from there, we'll be able to return to the questions at the end. So, Alex, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Alexa. Let me share my screen. All ready? Perfect. Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, for today, I am not Alex Hardy from HR Data Hub. As many of you know me, I'm Alex Hardy from ABC Recruitment, is my entirely fictitious company. For today, we have around 800 employees in the UK, and our digital marketing. We've been doing really well in the digital marketing space lately, but we have a few digital marketing reps and they're all running wild, and we need a senior manager to add a bit of structure to the current chaotic environment. And we have benchmarked this role on the platform. As you would do, you would have just typed in Senior Digital Marketing Manager. But what we have found with the results is that some of the roles we're looking at, even though by name they are the same as the role we're looking for, by key responsibilities and even things like organization size, there is quite a big gap, and we don't feel we're getting a fair reflection of the job title alone. With the new leveling framework in the HR Data Hub platform, we hope to eliminate that need to have things like senior in a job title. And so I'm going to alter this search to look like this. I'm taking away the seniority from the job title because the leveling framework is going to do that heavy lifting for us. So I'm just searching for digital marketing manager. I'm going to scroll down to the left-hand side. So this is where we find the filter itself. And I am going to select level 4 senior manager slash experts. It's quite handy. We have this little pop-up window so you can check that definition so you know exactly what you are selecting. So if I click senior manager slash expert and press apply, now we will only see the roles that match digital marketing manager somewhere in that job title and our level assessment of senior manager slash expert. And just before I show you the results, I'm going to click on the little I next to the level tag here, because this is where it contains all the information, or the simplified version of the information we think you'll need. There will be an article with all the info, but here is your work across. And here at ABC Recruitment, we use the Willis Towers Watson global grading system. We determined this role sat around a level 14. So that is exactly why we are going to search for senior manager slash expert within the HR Data Hub platform. If we come back out now, the level indicator is in this little column in the middle, and you will see quite a lot of them do come through as medium, but really all that means is that we're missing one of those dimensions here. So let's say, as an example, there is no reference of the people or resource management for a role. There we would classify that as a medium level of confidence, simply because we're missing that fourth dimension. So that's all it means. And as you'll see from the job titles as well, it gives us the chance to be a little more flexible with the job title, knowing that the leveling framework is going to back us up and make sure that the roles we're looking for are matched on what is really important, which is the key responsibilities, the autonomy of the role, the problem complexity, and the dimensions that Alexa mentioned already. So this is what it all looks like for now. We have the tooltips that the hover states are on the left-hand side. So you'll get the level descriptor itself. You have the access to this page if you just click on the little eye here. And the third one, so hopefully all the information you need is in the right place, is if you just hover over the level itself, you will see the level descriptor again and the confidence that we have determined. So I think that's everything on the leveling framework as it is today. Definitely give it a go with a few different roles. Go back over some of your saved searches if you've got them. If you haven't done them, save some searches. And we already have another update to show you. This is a work in progress, but the engineers and the product team that we have, they are brilliant at what they do. And so they already have another update that they would like me to walk you through. It is prone to change, but for now, this is what we think this platform will look like. We have what we have called Level Checker, and this will give you the chance to assess your own job posts, because it's all well and good that we look for other senior manager slash expert roles, but we need to know that the HR Data Hub framework actually assesses us at that level. So if we click on Level Checker, oh, it's got one I've already done before. Let's go back a stage. Here we can either drag and drop a file, so a PDF if you've got them, or you can just copy and paste the key responsibilities. I am going to upload this one, and you get this very fancy animation. We are assessing that job post on the four dimensions that we mentioned at the beginning. So you can actually see a breakdown of where they fit per dimension, which is quite neat, rather than just that overall level. You will have the assessment in the top left and the confidence on the right hand side. And so this is, yeah, very much a work in progress for now, but we hope we'll be releasing this as soon as we can. I think that is everything to go over for now. So, unless you think I missed anything, back to you, Alexa.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And obviously the level checker will send a lot of communication as to when that's available and ready, but we hope that whether you already have a grading system in or not, it could be something that can, help you make the most of HR Data Hub, and even adopt those broad levels and help you bring a bit more structure to your benchmarking in general. So keep an eye out for the communication on that coming soon. And speaking of communication, I'm going to check if there are any questions. I can't see anything just yet, but the important thing to know is that you will be getting lots of emails from us about this. So we will send you a copy of those slides, a recording of this release webinar, and also more information on where to find on the platform the tooltip with all the explanation, just in case kind of like this, kind of like you miss out on that a bit later. We'll also be sending through a link to get your feedback on this because the assessment, the confidence, the pillars, a lot of this comes from a lot of research that we've done, but the real test is it meaningful to you? Is that actually helpful? Are there specific things that you would like to see and that are not reflected there? What do you love? What do you love slightly less and you want to tell us about it? What would you like some more of? So keep an eye out for that. And as this feature comes from essentially your feedback in the first place. So we do listen and we do care about building things that will add genuine value. So let me jump into some of the questions. Sean, good to hear from you and see your comments. Will there be a link to the levels and safe search so that we can record? We can keep a record and history in the future. I believe so. All of this will be connected anyway. And yes, that should all be connected to the road profiles as well. Tanya, yes, this is live right now. So if you log in to HR Data Hub and you run a random search right now, you'll see that on the side. Um, Thank you so much for the kind words, Nicole. It's really nice. We work really hard, so it's just always just really exciting to hear that something that we've worked on is going to make a difference to you. That's why we're doing it in the first place. Leslie, thanks again as well for your kind words. Um, Alex, based on your latest conversations on the level checker, where do we think that is? Is it pre-summer, during summer, or post-summer?
Oof, I can hear Jack whispering in my ear saying, "Steady, Alex." But I would say,
Don't make any
hopefully,
promises.
yeah, hopefully within about 2 to 4 weeks, I'd say. It's looking really good. It's just we need to make sure, as with every release, we try and make sure everything is as good as possible. We test it thoroughly before we release anything and have to bring it back. So yeah, we hope I would hope around 2 to 4 weeks. I also just saw a question from Ellis about showing how many results are going to show up before searching. You can
Right.
see that. I can just really quickly share my screen again, actually, just to show. If I've searched for this digital marketing manager, I haven't selected any of the levels yet. I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see the number of roles that would be within each level before I've actually selected them. So you can take a look. There's 243, the same that we do for the pay types as well and the industry.
Yeah. And thank you so much as well for the great questions, for the kind words, Sarah as well, yourself, Emma as well. Um, we yeah, we're excited that you're excited. Um, and sorry, Trevor, you posted a question as well in the Q&A. This feature is great. We love that you love it. Conceptually, try it and tell us if you actually love it. But can we sort the result by confidence level of the model? Great question. This is actually something that's not available right now, but it's the next thing that we're working on as well. So how do you essentially make sure that you can filter by that or sort by that or etc. So not quite yet, but we're on to it. So thanks for flagging that. And if you do think that will be helpful, tell us why, because that gives us even more reasons to build it faster, and it helps also us build other features and think about it in other ways. It's exactly the reason why we show how many roles are on pay types, are on industry, on that, because that was a comment that was actually in one of our release webinars, and we're like, that's great, we should do that on all the filters. So yeah, tell us why. Um, we're excited that you're excited, Laura. That's cool. Thanks, Chris. Is there a way to make the split the level into more granular way, the groupings of the level across a couple of our internal bandings? Sadly, no. These are the ways that it's kind of like they're fielded into at the moment, and there's no way to break those up even further. That being said, I'd love to hear what you think it could be like in a manageable way, right? Like if you had to build this, you're like, it would actually be great if you could do it that way because that's how I would apply it. Um, like what you mean by more granular, basically. I'd love to hear that. So you can either reply to the survey that we're going to send, email Alex, email myself directly, and we'll pass that to the product team because, as we've said before, some of those changes are not always huge, heavy lifting things. Sometimes it can just be a quick thing that we can do, but we need to understand why, and so that we can try to assess would that actually benefit so many more people? Is it worth prioritizing it? So the more information we get as to what value you would get out of it, what would be the purpose, how many use cases that would be, share it, and we'll take it into consideration for sure. And it might just be a quick win that we can release, or it might be this is going to be very complicated. Sorry, but either way, we'll tell you. Um, nice. Okay, I think we're good. I don't see any more questions, so we're gonna wrap it up for today. So excited that so many of you are excited, or maybe simply curious. We want to hear what you have to say. I think I've said that in 20 different ways, so I think that'll be the last time I say it. But thanks for joining us today. Have a great rest of the afternoon, and email us, send us your thoughts, and stay hydrated and have a good day. All right, talk to you soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.